Hi, my name's Dave Bloom. I'm going to be tying one of my flies, probably one of the most popular flies that I designed is my ant. And this one is the purple version of my ant. It's kind of, well, it's more of an attractor. And I tend to tie it bigger. My favorite size is the size I'm going to tie right now. It's a size 12. You can use any dry fly hook. Right now I'm going to be using Tiemco 100s. So that's what I'm going to start out with. I'm going to tie in okay, I've got the hook mounted in the vise. Okay, I'm using 6/0 purple uni thread. And I'm going to start right at the eye of the hook. And I'm just going to paint that hook with thread. Okay. The next material that I'm going to tie in is I'm going to use some sort of purple antron yarn. And that's going to be the shellback. That's going to keep the abdomen or the gaster on my ant from falling apart. This way I can catch a lot more fish on the fly before I have to cut it off and tie a new one on. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go slightly into the bend with the thread. I'm going to come up just in front of the barb there. And I'm going to cut this off square and tie that in. Okay, then I'm going to take the bend of the hook and I'm going to split that yarn. And I'm wrapping back slightly into the bend. Then I'm going to cover all of that up with a little thread. And check, make sure that it's far enough back, and it is. And my next material is going to be some sort of purple dry fly dubbing. In this case, it's Nature Spirit. It seems to work really well. It's a good color. So I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to take some of the dubbing and I'm going to pull a noodle onto my thread and twist it up. Push that up. Sometimes on a hook this size, I may have to reapply the dubbing because it takes a lot of dubbing sometimes, but I think I should be pretty close here. Okay, I'm going to start right in front of the point there. I'm going to tighten it down a little bit. I don't want it too tight. I want this fly, the dubbing to trap air. I want this fly to float. So just periodically tighten that up. And I'm trying to build an ant-shaped gaster. There we go. Looks like I got about the right amount of material. So I'm going to take this, and I've split that with the hook. And as you see, if I push back on it like this, I'm going to grab it all here. So I'm going to pull forward. I'm going to push back a little bit, splay that out a little more, and I'm going to come over, and that's going to envelop that top half of my gaster there. And that's going to make that fly much more tough than it would be if I hadn't done that. Okay, so my next move, so I'm going to go all the way up to right behind the eye. And I'm going to tie that in, lift that straight up, and trim it out. Okay, so then my next move is I'm going to tie my wing in. I'm going to use a little EP fibers for this. Which is, I'm using white. These are EP fibers. You see they got a nice shine to them, a little bit of crinkle. That way I can tie in less material and end up with the illusion of more bulk. It makes a nice looking little wing. Okay. So I'm going to tie this in right on top. And I'm going to spread it out a little bit. and just wrap it back to right in front of that gaster. Let it hang back there. I'm going to take it forward. I'm going to trim that out of there. And I'm going to grab my next material, which is midge flash, crystal flash in pearl. I'm just going to cut 2 strands. Set those aside for a second. I'm going to make sure that my wing is down along the side. Coming down along the side pretty well. It looks like it is. So I'm going to hook that into the material holder. And I'm going to grab this flash. I'm going to tie it in first on my side, on the near side. And then I'm going to grab this other one, tie that one in on the far side. Okay, then I'm going to go right just about to the middle of the hook. And I'm going to grab my post material. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to take, this is McFlyline, and as you can see, it's kind of knotted up together, kind of tangled up. I'm going to take my whip finisher, and I'm going to try to loosen that up a little bit. Just make it easier to tie in. Okay. All right, now I'm going to tie this in, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 wraps right on top. I'm going to pull that up. I'm going to do a wrap in front and a wrap behind that, and I'm going to post it up. I'm going to wrap up this. At least 8, probably more like 10 turns. So I'm building up a post. I'm going to have 2 hackles on this, so I want to leave myself plenty of room to install my hackle. So I'm going to wrap back down. Going to go in front, then I'm going to go behind, and I'm going to completely cover that area with thread, and I'm going to pop it right in front of the post like that. I'm going to grab a couple hackles. These are size 12. Furnace, brown would be fine. And I'm going to grab a grizzly size 12. I don't like that one. I'm going to grab a different one. There we go. Okay. I'm going to cut that. Cut this brown. And I'm going to superimpose this grizzly over the top of the brown hackle. I don't know if you can see what I did there. And I'm just going to take those 2 feathers together and pull those fibers out at a 90-degree angle, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut a little bit longer on the far side away from me, which will be the first side to touch the post. A little bit shorter on my side, and I'm going to bring it in right up to the base of the post, and I'm going to tie it in with about 4 or 5 turns. So it's in there very securely. Now I'm going to start to wrap. I'm going to go up the hackle post till I get to the top, and then I'm going to work my way back down. Don't be afraid to tweak that post out of the way as you do this. Lift it up, tweak it around. I try to put as much hackle on these things as I can get away with. Lifting it up and pulling it around, that's all I can get on there. So I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to sweep back, and I'm going to make a wrap to capture all of that. Make another wrap. I'm going to pull this tight. I'm going to wrap a couple more times back toward the post. And I'm going to reach in here, try to gather up all those fibers. And I'm going to cut them long enough that I can take them and put them underneath the head so I get a nice square. I don't know if you can see that on the bottom. I've got a little bit of the stub that I'm going to tie forward. And that's going to make my fly way tougher. So my last move, as far as tying anyway, is I'm going to make a head here. So I'm going to start, I'm going to put a little dubbing on there. I'm going to need a little more on a size 12. Okay, now it's better to have too little than not enough. It's much easier to add a little dubbing than to take it away. I'm going to start backwards, and I'm going to wrap right up to the eye, and then I'm going to wrap. I'm going to do that again. That wasn't quite tight enough. Tighten it up a little more. I'm going to build up a head. There we go. Now I'm going to come right back to the base of my post again. Grab my whipper. And I'm going to pull all that back, and I'm going to whip right up and into my head. And that's going to tighten everything up. I'm going to pull that tight and trim it. And that'll also give me a big transition between my gaster and the head on my ant. So I'm going to take these, I'm going to straighten them out a little bit. Okay. I'm going to pull the wing out, and I'm going to cut the wing to length. Which I want to be about a shank. There we go. I'm going to spread that out. Check and make sure everything is straight on the bottom. Okay. Pull that apart. And I'll primp this hackle. Get it evenly distributed around that post. I'm going to lift up on my post. I'm going to trim that off. Fluff it up. Okay. Next move is I'm going to grab this trusty Trout Hunter head cement, and I'm going to take a drop on my bodkin, and I'm going to push it right into where the post meets the hackle. Then I'm going to come on the bottom of my fly, and I'm going to paint all of that thread in between those dub balls there. Okay, yeah, right in here. See where it looks wet? Yeah. Okay, make sure that's in there. And that is my purple ant. And that's one of my favorite attractors. They love that thing. Brown trout love this fly.